Hi friends, Krista here. Thanks for stopping by Books and Jams. Today I'm going to talk about my top 5 reads of 2023 so far. I have given 12 books 5 stars so far this year. I've read almost 90, I think, books, and 12 of them have been 5 stars. I thought about just going through all of my 5 stars, and then I'm like, you know what? No, I'm going to challenge myself to give you my top 5, my actual top 5, and I'm going to rank them 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. 1 being the best book that I've read so far this year. This could totally change. If you asked me this tomorrow, next week, it could totally change. 2 of these books I just read very recently. And maybe that's why they're on this list. It will be very interesting to me to see at the end of the year how my list compares to this list right now. But as of right now, these 5 books are my favorites so far this year. So starting at number 5, I have These Silent Woods by Kimmy Cunningham Grant. This was one of my Patreon book club books, I think January. I think it was right off the bat at the beginning of the year we read this. It's a relatively slim novel, kind of defying genre. It's not a thriller. It's not exactly a mystery. It's kind of contemporary. We follow Cooper and his 8-year-old daughter who live isolated in the woods, and you don't really know why. Things kind of unfold as the story goes on, and there is quite a bit of morally gray area. Cooper and his daughter have a wonderful relationship, and they kind of are survivalists. There's like a creepy neighbor, but is he creepy or is he kind of wonderful? I don't know. There was just so much to question and to think about that our book discussion for this was really good. And I think that probably is what bumped this up to a favorite, because of that discussion where some of us really loved this and loved the writing style, loved the questioning, loved the character development. And other people had a really difficult time with the fact that this man had chosen to live off the grid with his daughter and the reasons behind all of that. I really enjoyed this book and I really loved the discussion. So this is number 5 on my list. Coming in at number 4 is a book that I just read last month, and that is Emily of Deep Valley by Maud Hart Lovelace. This is like a hug in a book. This book was just a delight. There was not the morally gray situation like in These Silent Woods. In this one, we follow Emily as she graduates from high school and feels a little bit left out as the majority of her classmates are headed off to college. And she is staying home in Deep Valley to care for her grandfather, who's elderly and ailing. And she has to kind of figure out her path in life. It is not what she expected, and yet she finds a way to have purpose, in large part because of the Syrian community that is just outside of Deep Valley and her connections there and the ways that she gets involved with helping them and helping the town to be more accepting and loving, and the new friendships that she builds. I just absolutely loved this book. I thought it was a delight. I enjoyed the Betsy Tacy series to a degree, especially as Betsy and her friends got older. It was fun to see some of those characters show up in this story as well. But I really loved Emily of Deep Valley, definitely more than the Betsy Tacy series. It was lovely. And sometimes you just need a lovely book. Speaking of lovely books, I haven't even talked about this in a wrap-up yet because I just finished it yesterday when I'm filming this. It is The Reading List by Sarah Nisha Adams. I just absolutely loved this book so much. We follow Mukesh and Alicia mainly. Mukesh is an elderly Indian man who makes his way to the library where his deceased wife used to love going. He is in search of some books or hoping to find a way to connect with his young granddaughter who loves to read and read and talked about books all the time with his wife, Naina. And Mukesh is just hurting and grieving and trying to move on with life, and discovers books as a way to do that with the help of Alicia, who is a young girl, probably early 20s, just graduated from high school maybe, who works at the library a little bit begrudgingly. The first time Mukesh and Alicia interact, it's not so great, but Alicia finds this reading list, this list of 6 books or 7 books. And it just says, for when you need this, or something at the top. And so she is kind of struggling with her own situation at home. Her mom has some severe mental health issues. Her dad left, and she and her older brother have to take turns kind of caring for their mother. But she doesn't always feel like she's part of the club. Her and her brother and her mom get along really well, and Alicia struggles to find that connection with her mom. And she's just in general struggling. But she finds this list, decides she's going to start reading these books, and she starts recommending them to Mukesh. And then they begin talking about them. And we also get kind of flashbacks to when the list was originally written. We don't know who wrote the list, but we kind of see other people who encounter this reading list. I loved the glimpse into Indian culture with Mukesh and his 3 daughters. I loved the look at some of these books like Little Women and Pride and Prejudice and The Life of Pi, and how these books helped Alicia and Mukesh to address and face some of the issues in their own lives. I loved the characters in this book so much. I thought this was a definite read for book lovers. I thought that this was just a wonderful, wonderful read. Brought tears to my eyes, made me laugh out loud, and gave me a beautiful glimpse into Indian culture as well. And it really made me crave Indian food. I really wanted to eat some Indian food after reading that one. Number 2 was quite a surprise to me. Probably not to you if you've been around here for the last couple of weeks, but I recently read Drowning by T.J. Newman. I feel like I've talked about this so much, but I'm so surprised that a thriller is in my top 5 books of the year so far. And yet here we are. This is not a domestic thriller. This is not an unreliable narrator. We have here a plane crash, and the plane ends up sinking down into the ocean with people trapped inside of it. And there is a team of people on the outside trying to figure out how, well, first of all, if there are people inside, and how to get them out, how to rescue them. And there are connections between the people on the plane and the people on the team. Again, the character work in here, spot on, and heartwarming, heartbreaking at times. There's a father and daughter who are on the plane, and the wife is on the team trying to help get them rescued. Is it completely believable? I mean, it felt like it. Hopefully not. Hopefully this is never a situation that we see. But I absolutely was along for the ride. I couldn't put it down. I was listening to it on audio, and I just flew through it in less than 2 days because I just needed to figure out and find out what was going to happen. And I love that a thriller made me cry. Honestly, I love to cry in books. I love to get so connected and so caught up with the story that I feel personally attached to it. T.J. Newman did that so well. Yeah, I absolutely love this book. I know that it's not for everyone, but it was definitely for me. And finally, my favorite book of the year so far was an investment in time because it was a chunker, and it's The Way of Kings by Brandon Sanderson. Who would have thought that a humongo fantasy would be my favorite of the year? I don't think there's even a single historical fiction on this pile. What? The Way of Kings. I just have to give credit where credit is due, and this book is brilliant. Brandon Sanderson is a genius, and I loved this book. There are 3 main storylines in here that are slightly interwoven. There's a little bit of glimpses of different timelines as well. When I first started, I'm like, oh my word, this is going to be so confusing. But as I got into it, there is still definite things that I have questions about, definite strands of plot and characters that I need to continue the series to figure out more. But I was not bored. I was invested. I wanted to know what was going to happen with all 3 storylines. Each time we popped over to a different storyline, I was like, wait a minute, I want more. But then I would get invested in that one, and I just loved it. Kaladin, Dalinar, and Shallan. Can you believe that I even remember? Shallan. I can't believe... And Shallan, I can't believe that I even remember names, right? I don't remember names ever, but because I was with these characters for so long, of course I remember. Yeah, there was some political intrigue. There was some class structure situation. There's some scheming. There's some magic involved, like these different elements of magic that are as part of the story. It's impossible to summarize what this book is about. It's just fantastic. It's just fantastic. And I absolutely loved it. So I'm definitely going to continue. Judy, thank you for buying me this one and then sending me the 3 others in this series so far, because I can go right on to Words of Radiance, which is the second book. So yeah, I'm sorry I'm not giving you very much about what this is actually about. It's too hard. It's too hard, but I loved it. World building, top notch. I love that there weren't, from what I can remember, there weren't big sections of info dumping. We learn about the world as we're learning about these characters and as we're learning about the action that's going on. And so it didn't, for me, ever feel like, okay, just get back to the story, because the story was happening all the way through as he's adding on layer and layer in detail and just like filling out this world. Instead of just be like, okay, here's what we're dealing with. Here's the setting. This is what the world is like. This is the climate. This is the topography. This is the political situation. No, you don't get like an info dump. It's just woven so beautifully through the whole story. And I just was amazed and confused at times for sure, but not bored. And so The Way of Kings is my top book of the year so far. Holy moly. Who would have thought? There's my top 5 books so far in 2023. Not a historical fiction to be found. Hopefully, in the second half of the year, I read some fabulous historical fiction. I always say that's my favorite genre, but they're not here. I've read some good ones, but these 5 stand out to me for sure. I would love to hear in the comments below, what are some of your favorites of the year so far? If you can give me a top, I would love to see. And then if it's the same at the end of the year, that would be so interesting. But yeah, I would love to hear some of your favorites so far this year. Let's chat down in the comments. Have you read any of these 5? Do you agree with me? Did you like them or not? Let's chat about these books or anything else you want to talk about in the comments below. I always love talking with you down there. Thank you so much for watching and spending time with me today. I always really appreciate your support, and I look forward to talking with you in another video very soon. Bye.